In this video, we'll be talking about the option period and the extension of that option period. The option period in the contract, which is paragraph 23, is used by the buyer to be able to do due diligence on the property with inspections or maybe, scout around for lenders. So it gives him kind of a free ride, not a free ride, he's paying for it, but an opportunity to kind of have a second look at what he needs to do to buy the property. All right. Now, the option fee in paragraph 23 cannot be zero, and it must be a reasonable amount. That reasonable amount is considered about $10 or more. Okay, but if you're going to have a elongated option period, it certainly you'd want to make it a significant amount of money, several $100s. You have to remember that the seller is putting his house off the market, so to speak. He might change it to active contingent, but still a lot of agents won't show that property if it's other than active. But he runs the risk of taking the house off the market for a while, and the amount of money that he compensated for should be significant enough where he's not underwater. Okay, so it's a purchase from the seller as to how long a period the buyer can terminate without forfeiting the earnest money. Option money is never refunded. It is a completed purchase for a right of cancellation. Sometimes I see agents put in there, the deal fell through, so I want my option money back, and I want my inspection money back, and I want my earnest money back. Well, you can get the earnest money back, all right? You may be able to negotiate getting an inspection money back, but you cannot negotiate getting the option money back. You purchased the right to cancel, all right? And whether you used it or not, you cannot get that money back. Typically, the length of time for the option period is 7 to 10 days, all right, which is enough time for the buyer to have inspections done, and it's not an excessive amount of time to leave the seller wondering if the buyer will continue with the contract. So the buyer should have ample time in that time frame to perform inspections and submit any repair amendments prior to the option period expiring, so that buyer still has the right to cancel if they cannot agree on repairs. Well, let's explore that a bit. Buyer has a 2-week option period, so he does his inspections, comes back, says, there's some things wrong with the property. You wouldn't want to wait until the last moment, meaning the last day of the option period, to submit an amendment with requested repairs. You want to do it in enough time so that the seller would have the opportunity to respond with yay or nay as to whether or not they're going to do repairs and how many repairs they're going to do. And then if the buyer, of course, is not happy with that response, he can still cancel under the option period and receive the earnest money back. So day 1 of the option period is the day after the contract execution date. Okay, so day 1 starts the day after the contract is executed. To avoid any delays at closing, the box must be checked as to the disposition of the option money. Will it be credited to the buyer at closing or not? Normally, it is credited to the buyer. Now, what's different is extending the option period a little bit from the paragraph 23. All right, so you'd use an amendment, contract amendment. The amendment should be used, all right, prior to its expiration based on paragraph 23 of the contract. You don't want to extend the option period after it has expired, because that's a contradiction in terms. If something has expired, you can't extend it. Okay, so make sure you give yourself adequate amount of time to do an extension, all right, before that option period ends. You want to check the box for line 6 in the amendment, and you must pay an additional fee. Just as with paragraph 23, you cannot either purchase an option period or extend an option period for $0. Legally, an amount of value should be used, typically $10 or more. Okay? Now, paragraph 23 of the contract stated that the number of days for the option period, all right, that's as opposed to the amendment, which requires a specific date and time for the extension to end at 5 p.m. So be careful. When you're doing the extension of the option, you put in a specific date and time, right? Now, again, the box should be checked as to the disposition of the additional option money, right? Credited to the buyer or not at closing.